Chapter 1. Contact in the dark February 16, 1945, 02:37 hours, 150 miles northeast of Luzon, Philippines. Through the cramped sonar compartment of USS Flasher, sonarman First Class Robert Chen adjusted his headphones and froze. For 3 days they'd been hunting empty waters, but now the ocean sang with the mechanical heartbeat of distant propellers. Not one ship, but many. Contact bearing 045, multiple screws, heavy tonnage. He whispered into his headset, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Commander Reuben Whitaker moved swiftly to the sonar station, pressing his own headphones against his ears. The sound was unmistakable. A large Japanese convoy, probably 8 to 10 ships, grinding through the night toward what remained of Japan's crumbling empire. But this wasn't just another cargo run. The sonar signatures indicated tankers, loaded deep with precious fuel that could keep Japan's war machine breathing for another month. Range estimate 12,000 yards and closing, reported Chief Petty Officer Martinez from the plotting table. Course 285, speed 8 knots. Sir, if those are tankers, they're carrying enough oil to fuel the entire combined fleet. USS Flasher, a Gato-class veteran, tracked targets through her SJ radar. She carried Mark 18 electric torpedoes, wakeless, with about 575 pounds of torpex, lethal enough to break a merchant's keel. Whitaker studied the tactical plot with the calculating intensity of a chess master, knowing his crew had perfected the deadly art of undersea warfare through 3 years of Pacific hunting. The mathematics were elegant in their lethality. Each torpedo represented months of American industrial development distilled into steel and explosive. Each tanker represented months of Japanese petroleum imports. And while Whitaker's record was impressive, every shot in these waters carried risks that could doom his entire crew. "All stop, rig for silent running," Whitaker ordered. The boat's ventilation fans ceased their humming, and 80 men held their collective breath as Flasher became a steel ghost in the black Pacific depths. This wasn't Whitaker's first extended hunt, but something felt different about this convoy. Intelligence suggested that Japan's fuel situation had become so desperate that every tanker represented a strategic asset worth more than a battleship. USS Flasher's patrol area covered the main shipping lane between Borneo's oil fields and Japan's home islands, the empire's jugular vein. "Sonar contact firming up," Chen reported. "Count 8 merchants, heavy escorts. I'm hearing at least 4 destroyer screws, probably more." Through his hydrophones, he could distinguish the different acoustic signatures, the deep thrumming of loaded tankers, the higher-pitched whine of escort destroyers, and the distinctive cavitation patterns that marked Japanese warships. Whitaker moved to the periscope well, though at this range, the convoy remained invisible beyond the horizon. "Distance to intercept course, at present bearing and speed, sir. They'll pass within torpedo range in approximately 6 hours, calculated the navigation officer. "But if we shadow at this distance, we can pick the perfect attack position." The decision crystallized in Whitaker's mind with tactical precision. Rather than rushing into a hasty attack that might bag 2 or 3 ships, he would stalk this convoy like a patient predator, studying their patterns, identifying the most valuable targets, and waiting for the moment when geometry and opportunity aligned. "Come left to course 270. We're going to follow these gentlemen for a while. Plot a parallel course, maintain contact range at 8,000 yards. What followed would become one of the most meticulously executed submarine attacks in Pacific War history. 36 hours of cat-and-mouse warfare that would demonstrate the technological and tactical advantages that gave American submarines their devastating effectiveness against Japanese shipping. In the convoy's lead destroyer, Captain Hiroshi Nakamura studied his radar screen with growing unease. 3 merchant vessels had disappeared in this sector over the past month, all without distress calls, all vanishing, as completely as if the sea had swallowed them. His 4 destroyers provided the strongest escort he could muster, but deep down, Nakamura knew that American submarines were hunting these waters with near impunity. The convoy represented Japan's maritime lifeline. 4 tankers from the Maru series carrying crude oil from Balikpapan, 2 cargo vessels loaded with rubber and tin, and 2 transports packed with rice for Japan's starving cities. Loss of this convoy would force another reduction in military fuel allocations, and push civilian rations below subsistence levels. As dawn broke over the Pacific, two forces moved through the water on converging courses: a desperately important Japanese convoy carrying the fuel of empire, and an American submarine that had elevated undersea warfare to a precise and deadly art. The hunt had begun. Chapter 2. The Dance of Death. February 16, 1945, 14:20 hours, tracking at 8,000 yards. For 12 hours, USS Flasher had shadowed the Japanese convoy like a mechanical shark, her crew learning the rhythm of their prey. Commander Whitaker maintained contact at the edge of hydrophone range, close enough to track, but far enough to remain undetected. In the torpedo data computer, Chief Torpedo Man Williams plotted solutions for 8 different targets, updating speeds, courses, and firing bearings with each observation. "Target analysis complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes, the executive officer, studying the convoy through the periscope during a brief observation. Lead tanker appears to be 10,000-ton class, second tanker approximately 8,500 tons. The cargo vessel is flying naval ensign, probably carrying military supplies. Through careful periscope observations during daylight hours, Flasher's crew had built a complete tactical picture. The convoy sailed in 2 columns, tankers in the port column, smaller vessels to starboard, with destroyers patrolling ahead and on both flanks. Every 2 hours, the escorts changed their patrol patterns, standard Japanese anti-submarine doctrine designed to prevent exactly what USS Flasher was attempting. But American submarine technology had evolved beyond Japanese countermeasures. The SJ radar provided continuous tracking data without alerting enemy electronics, while the new bathythermograph allowed Whitaker to find temperature layers that could hide his boat from enemy sonar. Most importantly, the Mark 18 electric torpedoes left no wake, making their source invisible even during daylight attacks. "Sonar reports destroyer bearing 060 is turning toward us," whispered Chen from his hydrophone station. "Range approximately 4,000 yards, speed increasing." Whitaker studied the plot board with calm concentration. "Take us down to 150 feet. Silent running. All stop." USS Flasher slipped deeper into the Pacific's embrace, her crew frozen in practiced silence. In the sonar compartment, Chen tracked the approaching destroyer by pure sound, the accelerating beat of her screws, the ping of active sonar sweeping the water, the gradually changing bearing that would indicate whether the Japanese warship had detected them. "He's pinging, but the beams are passing overhead," Chen reported in barely audible whispers. "Bearing now 070 and drawing right. I think we're below his sonar cone." The destroyer passed 200 yards to starboard, her sonar operator never detecting the American submarine lurking in the thermal layer below. After 30 minutes of tense waiting, Whitaker brought Flasher back to periscope depth and resumed the hunt. February 16, 1945, 22:15 hours. As darkness fell, the convoy's formation tightened, a defensive measure that would prove to be their undoing. Whitaker had studied Japanese escort tactics for 3 years and knew their patterns. During daylight, they spread out to cover maximum ocean area. At night, they moved closer to their charges, creating gaps in their screen that a skilled submariner could exploit. "Battle stations torpedo," Whitaker ordered quietly. Throughout the boat, men moved to their attack positions with mechanical precision. In the torpedo rooms, 24 Mark 18 electric torpedoes waited in their tubes, each weapon representing 3 years of American industrial and technological development. "Targets bearing 045 to 090, range 3,500 yards, reported the TDC operator. "Firing solution set for targets 1 through 4. All tubes ready." Whitaker raised the attack periscope and studied his targets through the night optics. The tankers rode low in the water, their hulls heavy with crude oil that would fuel Japanese aircraft and warships. In 1941, such a convoy would have been protected by a dozen destroyers and air cover. Now, in early 1945, Japan could spare only 4 aging escorts for cargo worth more than a battleship. "Bearing, mark, range, mark, angle on the bow, starboard 20. The firing solution crystallized in the torpedo data computer, mechanical gears calculating the precise angle and timing needed to intersect target and torpedo. But this was only the beginning. Whitaker's plan called for a methodical attack on the convoy, using Flasher's superior speed and sensors to strike, evade, and strike again throughout the night. Japanese doctrine assumed that submarines would strike once and flee. American submarine commanders had learned to stay and fight, using technology to maintain contact while escorts searched in confusion. Set depth 8 feet, speed high, open outer doors, tubes 1 through 6. The attack phase was about to begin, but this would be no hasty ambush. Whitaker intended to follow this convoy for the full 36 hours if necessary, striking with careful precision until the most valuable targets lay on the bottom. Chapter 3. First Blood, February 17, 1945, 00.42 hours. Fire 1. The first Mark 18 torpedo slipped from USS Flasher's bow tube with barely a whisper, its electric motor driving it through the dark water at 29 knots toward the lead tanker's engine room. Fire 2! Fire 3! In 20 seconds, 6 torpedoes were running toward the convoy's port column, their tracks invisible in the black Pacific night. Commander Whitaker remained at the periscope, watching the deadly geometry unfold. Time to target, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Take us down to 80 feet. Rig for depth charge attack. The crew waited in absolute silence, each man calculating the seconds until impact. At 00:44:47, the first torpedo found its target. The lead tanker exploded in a geyser of flame and crude oil that illuminated the convoy for miles. The second and third torpedoes struck the second tanker nearly simultaneously, breaking the vessel in half. 2 hits on the lead tanker, 2 hits on target 2, reported the sound operator, listening to the destruction through his hydrophones. Target 1 is listing heavily, target 2 is breaking up. But USS Flasher's attack had only begun. As the convoy erupted in chaos, destroyers racing toward the attack bearing, tankers executing emergency turns. Whitaker used the confusion to reload and reposition for the next phase. All ahead full, come right to course 180. We're going around their stern. One escort reduced speed to recover survivors from the burning tankers, while 2 destroyers swept the attack sector at full speed, dropping depth charges in a systematic pattern. The explosions echoed through Flasher's hull as she maneuvered away from the immediate danger zone. February 17, 1945, 02:15 hours. Torpedoes reloaded and ready, Captain, reported Chief Williams from the forward torpedo room. All tubes loaded with Mark 18 electrics. Whitaker had positioned USS Flasher on the convoy's new course, anticipating their evasive maneuvers. Japanese convoy doctrine called for a 90-degree emergency turn after submarine attack, followed by high-speed run to the nearest port. But Whitaker had studied these patterns and positioned himself accordingly. Target bearing 30, range 2,800 yards, large tanker down by the head but still making way. Through the periscope, Whitaker could see a damaged tanker struggling to keep up with the convoy despite flooding from near-miss explosions. At this range, the margin of error was minimal, provided the escorts didn't react faster than anticipated. Set depth 6 feet, spread 1 degree divergent, fire 4, fire 5. 2 more torpedoes raced toward their target with mechanical precision. The damaged tanker, unable to maneuver effectively, took both hits amidships and disappeared in a fireball visible from 20 miles away. A cargo vessel, attempting evasive action, ran directly into the path of the third torpedo. 3 targets destroyed, 5 remaining, calculated the executive officer. But the escorts are organizing a coordinated search. Sonar reports multiple destroyers closing on our position. This was the critical moment in any submarine to attack, the period when American technology would determine whether USS Flasher could continue the hunt or would be forced to break contact. Japanese destroyers carried enough depth charges to crush a submarine, but their sonar systems couldn't penetrate the thermal layers that Flasher used for concealment. Take us down to 200 feet. All stop. Rig for silent running. As depth charges exploded overhead, USS Flasher slipped away through temperature gradients that made her invisible to Japanese sonar. But Whitaker had no intention of abandoning the hunt. 5 vessels remained afloat, including 3 tankers carrying oil worth more than a carrier task force. The technological advantages that gave American submarines their devastating success rate would be tested through the long night ahead. Chapter 4. The Killing Hour. February 17, 1945, 08:30 hours. After 6 hours of cat-and-mouse warfare, USS Flasher had reduced the Japanese convoy from 8 ships to 5, but the survivors included the largest and most valuable targets. 2 massive tankers still carried enough crude oil to fuel Japan's remaining battleships for months of operations, while the escorts had tightened their protective screen around the precious cargo. Commander Whitaker studied the tactical situation through his periscope as dawn broke over the Pacific. The convoy had adopted a tight defensive formation, with destroyers weaving protective patterns around the remaining tankers. The mathematics of the hunt were becoming more challenging as the Japanese adapted their tactics. "They're heading for Manila Bay," observed Lieutenant Commander Hayes, plotting the convoy's course. "If they reach the harbor, we'll never get another shot at them." Whitaker calculated distance and time with practiced precision. 58 miles to port. At their current speed, they'll be under air cover in 7 hours. We need to close this out. The final phase of the attack would require USS Flasher to penetrate the destroyer screen, a dangerous maneuver that could expose the submarine to devastating counterattack. But the Mark 18 torpedo's wakeless approach made such close-range attacks feasible. And Whitaker's crew had developed the tactics through 3 years of Pacific combat. Battle Stations Torpedo. Make ready tubes 7 through 12. February 17, 1945. 10:15 hours. USS Flasher approached the convoy from astern, using her superior speed to close the range while remaining in the destroyer's sonar shadow. At 200 yards, point-blank range for submarine warfare, Whitaker could see individual details on the tanker's superstructures through his periscope optics. Target angle on the bow, port 15, range 1,200 yards, set running depth 8 feet. The geometry was challenging, but manageable. At this range, torpedo run time was 90 seconds. The Japanese tankers, heavy with oil and riding low in the water, had limited maneuverability. Even if the escorts detected USS Flasher's position, their reaction time would be critical. "Fire 7, fire 8. 2 Mark 18 torpedoes leaped from Flasher's bow tubes, their electric motors driving them silently through the water toward the lead tanker's fuel compartments. "Fire 9! The destruction was immediate and spectacular. The lead tanker's crude oil cargo erupted in a massive fireball that sent a column of fire and smoke visible for miles. The heat so intense it blistered paint on USS Flasher's bridge structures. The explosion damaged the second tanker, sailing nearby, and sent debris raining across 1,000 yards of ocean. "Target 1 destroyed, Target 2 taking water and losing way," reported the periscope operator. "The escorts are closing fast on our firing bearing," but Commander Whitaker was already calculating his next move. 2 tankers remained afloat, along with a cargo vessel, and USS Flasher carried sufficient torpedoes to complete the mission. The convoy that had begun 36 hours earlier would soon become another entry in the grim statistics of Japan's maritime losses. "Come left to course Aerofort 5. We're finishing this." February 17, 1945, 11:47 hours. The convoy's remaining tanker, damaged but still carrying thousands of tons of aviation gasoline, limped toward Manila Bay with both destroyers providing close escort. Her captain had jettisoned some cargo to increase speed, but the vessel still represented a strategic asset that could supply Japanese air defenses for months. USS Flasher approached from the port quarter, using the burning oil slick as partial concealment. At 900 yards range, closer than most surface engagements, Whitaker fired his final salvo at the crippled convoy. "Fire 10, fire 11, 2 Mark 18 torpedoes converged on the last tanker with deadly accuracy. The first struck her engine room, the second her remaining fuel tanks. In less than 4 minutes, the final remnant of the convoy slipped beneath the waves, taking thousands of tons of aviation gasoline with her. The 36-hour hunt was complete. USS Flasher had fired 11 torpedoes and achieved 10 hits, a success rate that demonstrated the technological and tactical advantages that gave American submarines their devastating effectiveness against Japanese shipping. Chapter 5. The Mathematics of Victory. February 18, 1945, USS Flasher en route to Subic Bay. As USS Flasher headed home through the oil-stained waters of her hunting ground, Commander Whitaker completed his patrol report with clinical precision. The numbers told a story of technological supremacy and tactical execution. 7 ships totaling approximately 78,000 tons sunk, thousands of tons of petroleum destroyed, 11 torpedoes fired with 10 hits, a 91% accuracy rate that would become noteworthy in submarine warfare records. Final damage assessment, dictated Whitaker to his yeoman. Convoy effectiveness reduced to 0. Estimated cargo value, $140 million. Torpedo expenditure, 11 Mark 18 electrics, cost approximately $110,000. Strategic impact, significant reduction in enemy fuel supplies. The patrol report would eventually reach Admiral Lockwood at Subpac headquarters, who would recognize it as evidence of American submarines' technological and tactical evolution. These boats weren't just winning the Pacific War. They were demonstrating new levels of precision in maritime warfare. March 1, 1945, Joint Intelligence Center, Pearl Harbor. Captain Dick Voge studied USS Flasher's patrol report alongside similar documents from across the Pacific. The pattern was clear. American submarines were achieving accuracy rates and tonnage destruction that exceeded historical norms. In February alone, U.S. submarines had sunk over 150,000 tons of Japanese shipping, more than Japan's shipyards could replace in 6 months. This represents a fundamental shift in naval warfare, Voge explained to his intelligence staff. We've achieved technological advantages that make Japanese convoys extremely vulnerable to coordinated attack. The 36-hour hunt by USS Flasher symbolized broader changes in Pacific warfare. Where Japanese submarines had initially excelled with advanced torpedoes and experienced crews, American industrial capacity and technological innovation had reversed the balance. Mark 18 electric torpedoes, SJ radar, bathythermographs and torpedo data computers created weapon systems that Japanese forces struggled to counter effectively. March 15, 1945, Imperial Naval Headquarters, Tokyo. Captain Takeshi Naito, Japan's senior naval intelligence analyst, compiled his monthly shipping loss report with growing concern. USS Flasher's convoy destruction represented attacks occurring regularly across Japanese shipping lanes. The mathematics were troubling. At current loss rates, Japan's merchant marine faced severe capacity reduction within the year. February losses, 387,000 tons, Naito reported to Admiral Toyoda. Replacement construction, 45,000 tons. Net monthly deficit, 342,000 tons. This trend threatens our ability to maintain overseas supply lines. The 36-hour pursuit that eliminated a complete fuel convoy demonstrated more than tactical defeat. It showed Japan's growing difficulty protecting the maritime lifelines that sustained their empire. American submarine technology had advanced beyond many Japanese countermeasures, creating situations where convoys faced significant risks during transit. August 15, 1945, Japanese surrender. When Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, USS Flasher's convoy attack had become part of a pattern that severely damaged Japan's war economy. American submarines sank 5.3 million tons of Japanese shipping, 55% of their pre-war merchant fleet, while losing 52 boats in return. The success rates achieved by boats like USS Flasher contributed to Japan's decision to seek peace. The 36-hour hunt that began with a sonar contact in dark waters off Luzon had ended with a demonstration of technological and tactical capabilities. Commander Whitaker's successful attack showed how American industrial capacity, scientific innovation, and aggressive tactics combined to create highly effective weapons systems. Legacy of precision. USS Flasher's 36-hour convoy hunt became a case study in precision warfare, demonstrating how technological advantages could achieve strategic results through careful execution. The boat's high torpedo accuracy rate, 10 hits from 11 shots, represented the culmination of years of weapons development, tactical innovation, and crew training. The true significance lay in what the attack represented: the evolution of warfare toward technology-based precision rather than simple numerical superiority. The submarine that hunted a Japanese convoy for 36 hours with devastating effectiveness had proven that in modern warfare, industrial capacity and scientific innovation could overcome traditional military advantages. The convoy gathered 4 tankers from the Maru series and 2 cargo vessels. Specific names were kept classified in contemporary sources, but their destruction marked another step in the systematic campaign that ultimately forced Japan's surrender. The hunt was over. The demonstration of precision warfare was complete.